problem exists because white people think they're better than black people, and they want to oppress us, and they want us to allow ourselves to be oppressed.
This is the big, I agree with you perfectly. This is the basic problem.
Then what do you
that white people think they're better than others.
I can't solve the problem. You guys pull the strings that close schools. You guys draw the boundaries that keep our kids restricted to the ghetto. You guys write up the restrictive covenants that keep us out of houses. So it's up to you to talk to your brothers and your sisters and persuade them that they have a responsibility. We've assumed ours for over 400 years, and we're tired of this kind of stuff now. We're not going to suffer patiently anymore. No more turning the other cheek. No more blessing our enemies. No more praying for those who despitefully use us. We're going to show you that we've learned the lessons you've taught us. We've studied your history, and you did not take over this country by singing "We Shall Overcome." You did not gain control of the world like you have it now by dealing fairly with a man and keeping your word. You're treaty breakers, you're liars, you're thieves, you rape entire continents and races of people. Then you wonder why these very people don't have any confidence or trust in you. Your religion means nothing. Your law is a farce, and we see it every day. You demonstrated it in Alabama. And I can say you because you're part of the whole system. You profit from it. In fact, you make your living from it. You couldn't walk around and talk to people, stand up in your pulpit on Sunday and preach nice little songs and say, now we're going to give thanks to the Lord for he is good and old Jesus be among us. As far as we're concerned, your Jesus is contaminated, just like everything else you tried to force upon us is contaminated. Well, so you can have him.
Look at this chart. You can see African Americans represent 41% of COVID-19 deaths. The next closest race, Caucasian at 28%.
The last time someone asked me how my day was outside of like my, you know, friends or close family or whoever, anybody who's close to me, I mean, I could go easily. I work in a prison setting, so I could go easily 2 weeks. But the last time was definitely last week, probably around Monday. It's easy to remember it because it doesn't come often.
The last time somebody asked me how I was doing and checking up with me was probably about a week ago. I do have, like, you know, some friends that do check in with me and see how I'm doing. I think when it comes to stuff like, you know, people checking in with you, for me, sometimes you're not always transparent, you know what I mean? Because sometimes, like, when somebody's asking you how you're doing, expectedly somebody's like, oh, okay, I'm good, how are you doing? But like really checking in with somebody, like I think before that week, like probably some months or so before, like really checking in and like seeing, like, you know, what you've been through, what's going on, what's really going on with your life.
Is it that we're surprised, or is this just something that's already common? You know, I mean, we've been exposed to different things from slavery and just watching it. And how often are we asked, black men, is it okay? Are you okay? Like, socially, we're taught to do what? Like, even as babies, if a little boy falls, it's get back up. You know, if a little boy gets hurt, stop crying. You know, or man up, toughen up, right? Those are the norms that we're taught to have to deal with. Like I said, going back to slavery, a black man was, you know, he's stripped from his family, you know what I mean? Or he may be, like, you know, castrated in front of his family, you know what I mean? And like made to look less than in front of his family. And so, you know, we're taught you have to suck it up in this society today. So when these things happen, you know, we're the last to be looked at. We're the last to be checked in on, you know, hey, how are you doing? And then if you look at our counterparts, females, they're expected to be hyper emotional. You know what I mean? Like, oh, women are just extra emotional, and things like that. I think we see a huge turnaround in regards to black men being, and I think it's with the millennials, black men are trying to change the narrative by getting more involved in therapy.
I like to call myself a storyteller. I don't really like to go with the title of journalist or camera operator or videographer. I feel like although I dabble in those things to do my actual work, I feel like ultimately what I'm doing is storytelling. I would say that my ultimate goal in life is to actually just continue telling people stories. And not just anybody, but mostly people who are underprivileged and overlooked, marginalized individuals. I relocated from the Dominican Republic. My family ended up immigrating over here, our whole family. So it was like my grandfather and his 11 siblings, and then their kids, and then their kids' kids were born here already. I think I realized that I was black when I was about 9 years old. And this kid out in Boston wouldn't let me play on the basketball court, and he was saying no N-words allowed. So I couldn't play on the basketball court because I was black. And you know, being that young and at the same time not understanding what racial dynamics was, you know, being 9 years old, especially having come from a different country, it didn't click in my head that I was black. I'm thinking to myself, like, why is he saying that? Because I assumed he was referring only to African-American people. So I was saying, you know, in a way like, well, one, you're wrong because that's not right. And two, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. And in my head at that time, that was registering as, hey, I just want to play. But then looking at it as an adult, it's like, I don't know if that was just a defense mechanism or what it was, but it was just a weird interaction where I was, for the first time, being discriminated against and being told I couldn't play somewhere because of the color of my skin. I think one thing that that black men across the spectrum of the African diaspora can do to support each other is kind of understand. I think first of all, we have to start understanding our humanity. We may speak different languages. We may have, you know, different, you know, racial makeups depending on, you know, what European colonizer is the ones that, you know, enslaved your people versus, you know, what specific country in Africa they got your ancestors from and what the indigenous people of that country were. So that right there creates a whole lot of differences in how we are, you know, in our racial makeup. I think that one thing we can do to kind of like support each other is first understand that we are the same people. You know, like that special, that specific statement that's always said sometimes is that, you know, the only difference between somebody that's, you know, black in North America, black in the Caribbean, or black in Latin America is just a different boat stop along the Atlantic slave trade. So I think once we understand, you know, where we come from, we kind of can help start to move forward to kind of like support each other.
If all of these people say, why didn't my client intercede? Well, if the public is there and they're so in an uproar about this, they didn't intercede either.
It's kind of reality, like being black, we know the talk, but outside of our race, people don't know the talk. And the talk is, I've been raised by a great family. My mother, father taught me respect your elders, respect the police, no matter what. I know police get bad talk because of there's some sour apples out there right now, but you gotta act accordingly to your environment. There's no justification of what's been going on lately, but I've had to talk with my mother's like, you say yes, you look a man in his eyes, you don't bad talk any police, be respectful, no back talking and just stuff like that. Be careful in these streets.
And what does it feel like being a black man in America? If you could put it into a feeling, like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind, a word?
Unappreciated.
Unappreciated.
Most definitely, unappreciated. Some of the rude awakenings were seeing how the workforce may value you despite your capabilities, you know. It was kind of like when things hit the fan, that's when I get called on. But when it's time to create ideas and do things that make sense and make change and make things better, it's like, okay, we're only gonna call on him when we have to.
And so I just want to let the public know that we are pursuing justice, we are pursuing truth, we're doing it vigorously, and we are pursuing accountability.
My parents were well off, you know, they weren't bad or they were good middle class, so it wasn't like I had a rough neighborhood or anything like that, but you know, it was rough at times. And it was New York, you know, I don't know how else to put it, but you know, for those who've been to New York, they know you're gonna see a lot in a short time and have to deal with a lot in a short time. When I grew up, I actually lived by the Long Island Railroad right in Queens. So, you know, we got desensitized to a train going by every few hours or so. But also, you know, growing up, when I was younger, the neighborhood wasn't as clean and as gentrified and I would guess say more valuable now than it is now. It was a lot of the Bloods and Crips, the Latin Kings, Nieta, a lot of the gangs, a lot of you know, the drug era. But we had some mayors, Mayor David Dinkins and Giuliani, that kind of put some things in place to kind of clean some things up. I definitely grew up around, you know, people who've been, you know, cut. You know, there was an era of people cutting each other in the face. You know, the gangs would go out and just randomly cut innocent people's face and give them $1.50 for initiation. I grew up around a lot of different cultures. So in those cultures, everybody had different beliefs behind how they should deal with the community. So often even though we were together in the community, there was still a divide on cultural beliefs, from religion to how, you know, if someone's in a gang, how that would be dealt with. If someone is prepositioned by a gang member, how it would be dealt with. It was always different. And you would see, you know, people you were close to, they would grow up, become a part of a gang. Some would end up murdered. Some would end up locked up. Some would end up your enemy. And, you know, and you have to, you know, watch out for those who try to get you to join a gang. And you like, you know, I'm not about that. And then it turns into now somebody's out to beat you up or whatever.
Even before Kobe, you know, to touch on that piece, before Kobe, even when Nipsey was killed, you saw there's been a huge shift in regards to black men expressing emotions, right? You see black men acknowledging each other more. You see black men supporting each other more. There's different types of organizations where black men are uplifting each other. And then you have artists like Nipsey, who before his death, he was preaching that, supporting each other, calling each other kings, even changing the phrase nigga to niggas, right? N-E-G-U-S. And just acknowledging each other on a higher level to where we're supporting each other. And so I think we've seen, even before Kobe, there was a huge shift in that dynamic that society had taught us that we're supposed to behave in regards to not expressing emotions.
We kind of keep our emotions bottled up, and sometimes they come out different at the wrong times. Like, you know, people outlast when they're fed up. But at this point in time, a lot of people love Kobe. Like, Kobe was a brother, a father to them, a friend to them, because everybody was a big fan. So when that did happen, you saw a lot of those emotions come out, and it was okay. Like, I don't knock any man that cries. Everybody think because you cry, it belittles you or makes you look a little bit sissyish or whatever. So it doesn't take none of your manhood away from you. Some guys need to cry to get that emotions out of you so you can clear your soul, so you can go on and have a better day the next day.
I never had the honor of taking one of your classes, but I feel like I'm a student of yours, and I learn lessons every time you speak. And I just think it's...
No, we're in it together, brother. And the beautiful thing about tears, Socrates never cries, but Jeremiah does, and so does Jesus. He cries because we care, we're concerned. It's not about political correctness. It's not about self-righteousness. We cry because we are not numb on the inside.